Hello and welcome back to my greenhouse for another fun video. And this one is, what is the internet? Because y'all use it every day, all day, constantly. But if I asked you what is the internet, would you really know how to answer it? A lot of people don't. And honestly, it's much simpler and more relatable than a lot of people realize. So just to toss out the basics, you're taking data in form of video, data in form of photo, data in form of text, data in form of all kinds of different documents, and you're sending it, transmitting it via all kinds of different mediums, either on your local network or potentially worldwide. And when I say different mediums, you're taking the data and you're sending it through, originally it was like POTS lines, plain old telephone lines, and that was back in the dial-up days and your DSL internet days. You can still transmit data that way. A lot of rural places, like that's still how they do it to some extent. And then you can also send this data via copper lines, like copper cabling, coaxial cabling, the same type of cabling that you use for your cable television. So you can send the data that way, those copper cables. You can send the data via fiber optic cables, so using light frequencies, either light or lasers. I mean, a lot of fiber optics use lasers now, which is even faster and more effective at sending this data. And then, I think the way a lot of us use it now is via our phones and wireless antennas and satellites. So using wireless mechanisms for radio waves, for microwaves, those are the mediums that are transmitting the data. So to simplify the travel itself and what's traveling, like let's say on a relatable level, you take a really cute picture of your cat and you want to send that picture to two of your closest friends. One is Jim in accounting, the same office that you work in, the same area network that you work in. And the other one is your cousin Jessica, who is volunteering all the way in Tanzania, Africa, like a different continent and everything, right? So you take that photo of your cat and you go to send it off. And what's happening after you take that photo and then you go to send it, in order to send it over the internet, that photo is getting broken down into something called packets. And those packets take that image itself and then also break it down and put the routing information on it. So you'll get your sender data, your receiver data, the different protocols that are going to be used to route this traffic to send this photo where it needs to go. And then those packets with that header information, all that routing information, are broken down even further into binary, which is the most basic language that computers have to communicate with and understand, those zeros and those ones, which I'm sure you've seen referred to like loosely. So to this day, every photo you take, every video you take, every text you send, still on some level, if it's getting transmitted over the internet and two computers, two devices are having to communicate with it, it's getting broken down into those zeros and those ones. And those are considered bits. Those are binary bits. Each zero and each one is a bit. And there's 8 bits in a byte. So let's say you have a file that you're sending that is 3 megabytes. So that means it's going to be 24 million zeros and ones. I brought this little laser flashlight thing. Almost think of it like Morse code for computers, like beep, boop, boop, boop. Like that's how they're sending the ons and offs, the zeros and the ones, the flashes of light, like if you're using fiber optics, to send that information of how, like where and how this picture of this cat is supposed to get rendered. So that's like the basics of it. But let's say like the two different scenarios, like you have your friend who's over in accounting and that's on your local network. Like you guys are using the same wireless network. You're using probably a few of the same like routers on that network. So if I snap that picture of the cat and I go to send it to Jim in accounting, it's not traveling nearly as far. And basically like our wireless router, assuming I'm sending it via my phone, that wireless router is probably going to be the one, even just within that network, that routes it right over to Jim's phone. Like it gets those zeros and ones, reconstructs it into that packet and sees, okay, this is supposed to go to Jim. Here's Jim's IP address. I'm going to send it over there. That's like the basics of how it would get sent on your local network. However, the internet on like a broad global scale, again, how a lot of us are using it every single day. Let's say when you're sending it to Jessica over in Africa on a totally different continent, what's happening there is that image that is now in the packets gets sent to that same router, that same like wireless router in your office. But then the router sees it and says, oh, wow, this is not for this network. This is for a totally different network. So I'm going to send it to the ISP, your internet service provider. So that router from the local network sends it to your ISP, and then your ISP gets a hold of it and says, well, this isn't in our network. Like, you know, if AT&T is your internet service provider, this is not an AT&T customer, at least not like an AT&T customer with that we provide service to. This is something transcontinental. So then that ISP is going to send it over those subsea cables, like those subsea fiber optic cables that you see getting laid in the ocean, and like sharks try to attack it, but thankfully they're built pretty strong. But yeah, like all those zeros and ones, all that information about like what that cat image is now sent from that ISP in America through those subsea cables over to the different continent, over to Africa, or potentially up to a satellite. Like, let's say your friend who's volunteering in Tanzania and Africa, or your cousin who's volunteering in Tanzania and Africa, can't get like traditional internet where she's at. Like, chances are she's using some type of satellite plan. So then all of those zeros and ones that represent that cat photo at the end of the day are getting sent and routed through a satellite that's then getting sent to her phone, routed to her phone, and then rendered as the image of the cat. And that's, you know, on a small scale and a large scale, that's the gist of it. So I hope this made more sense. Like, bottom line, at the end of the day, you're taking data. Again, that could be a photo, that could be video, that could be all kinds of different documents, and you are routing it via plain old telephone lines, you're routing it via copper cables, you're routing it via satellite, you know, microwave, radio wave antennas, you're routing it via fiber optic cables to get where it needs to go. And I hope this was helpful. I'm also going to do another video probably right now. I was originally going to do it in this same video, but I think it was going to be too long, of the history of the internet, which gives the internet, I think, even that much more context, and, you know, readily makes it that much more readily understandable too. So if you want to see that one, I will link it to this video, and vice versa. And yeah, hope this was helpful. And now if anyone ever asks you, what is the internet? Be like, I know. Anyways, take care.